Hey guys, my name's Mannequin. Welcome back to Remixing from Scratch. So this might be the last video in this series here. We're going to be doing mastering today, and like I talked about in my previous video, in case you're just grabbing this one to hear my spiel on mastering and you didn't watch the previous one, basically what I was going to talk about, or what I talked about in my last video and I want to talk about here, is that I do a little bit of mixing in the mastering stage. So some people think you should have mixing and mastering, like you should start, do a light master and then go back, mix some stuff, and then finish your master. Others say that you should finish all your mixing and then master it separately while it's all bounced down. I tend to be the type of person that's, looks at my mix, does as best I can, and then goes in to try to master it, and then when things start standing out in the mastering stage, I go back to fix what needs to be fixed. So that's the way I'm going to be doing it. You could just bounce it down and then master it, but like I said, I prefer to do it this way because typically I do tweak my kicks a lot when I go into master. So for mastering, this is where the gain plugin comes in. Remember how we threw this gain plugin on so that we could get a 12 decibels boost on the master channel, and then so we were getting some clipping here somewhere. There we go. So there's our clipping. So the reason I did this is now if I turn off this plugin, now this is just the raw master output. This is the level everything's at. So that means we have tons of headroom and there's no clipping. For those of you that, sorry about that. For those of you that are new to the audio work and you don't exactly know what the big deal about clipping is, the way Logic handles clipping, you don't actually hear it all that much. So if you see the red here when it's playing back, I'll just do this again so you can see. If you see the red here, you don't really hear all that much when you're just playing it back in Logic. But the instant you go to bounce something, you have a couple issues here. So if you do normalize, then what can happen is it'll take the peaks, take the highest peak, and it'll shrink everything down so that the highest peak is not clipping. If you do overload protection, it'll do the same thing. The only difference between normalize on and overload protection only is if you have normalize on and it never peaks, it'll pull everything up so that the highest point in your track is at 0 decibels, and so that's kind of like increasing the gain. This one only decreases it if it goes over. Off, on the other hand, will do nothing to it, which means if you hit a point where it gets to 0 decibels or it goes positive, then what will happen is you'll hear this nasty distortion. So, moral of the story, best bet is you actually want to have it so you could just turn normalize on and you're just pulling stuff up when you bounce it. So normally, if you have it on anything other than off, it'll just affect the volume of your track. If you just set it to off, normalize off, and you have any peaking, it'll distort where that is and it'll sound nasty. It's the worst kind of distortion that you could typically get, and so you want to try to avoid that. If you're doing it for an effect, that's a totally different thing, but you want to do that separately. You would almost never want that on your master channel strip to be clipping while you're bouncing it. So excuse me. So some of the reason that I have this gain on here is just so I could avoid that, because I tend to let things clip because you can't actually hear it when you're playing it back normally because the way Logic handles it. So you can't actually hear the clipping that you would get if you were bouncing it with no protection. So I put this gain plugin in so that I could let it clip, and then when I turn off this gain plugin, everything's back down to a wonderful, really low level, and I can actually work with things. So now, just to kind of bring this up, if you are there's a quick fix. If you have clipping and you haven't done this little gain trick that I do, you could actually put a gain on and lower it so that you're never clipping before you start to go in to do your mastering. But that's not actually the best solution. The best solution is to go through your mixer. This takes a lot more work, but you actually it's better to do this. And if you have automation, it's going to mess things up all over the place because the automation does not keep this in account. But you would go through and you just select all your tracks, and then you just grab all the volumes and then turn them down like that. So but the one thing you have to keep in mind is if you have a stack, it'll reduce the volume considerably because you're changing the volume of the stack as well as the contents. so that you're reducing it more than if you actually just pull down, if you just pull down this one. So my suggestion is go through, actually deliberately select the different parts, deselect anything inside of it, and also make sure you are not selecting your reverbs. Because if you select your reverbs, you'll get very messed up reverb levels. So all these channels here that you don't want to select the output, obviously. You want to pull down everything except for your anything that's inside something like a group. So for example, you want to select this one instead of all three of these. And then go through and actually reduce the volume on all your tracks except for, like I said, the stuff inside the groups and your what do you call them? Your sends here that are for like delays and reverbs and stuff. So, and then once you get everything turned down, it should just be, if you do it right, it should just be a quieter version of the original track and there should be no balance issues. But you need to select them all at the same time and then pull them down like you saw me doing, just selecting multiple. And then you could actually go through and pull it down. And then, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Crap. Now I need to actually go through here. Actually, I'm just going to revert this project to the save. Revert to saved. Sorry about that. But normally it should actually if you don't pull it down all the way, you should just be able to pull it up and down and adjust things. So if I go back to here, and then if I select these four, and then if I pull this one down like that much, they'll keep their ratios. And if I pull this one back up, that one goes to where it was originally, unless you pull it all the way down, which I just learned. I didn't actually know that. So lesson learned there. So theoretically, I should have been saved last time. So I should actually be fine. And I just have to go through and go to my master channel strip and turn off the gain. That's all I did there. Okay. So now that I've had my spiel, sorry about that, so I can actually go through and start mastering. So the two things I'm going to be putting on my master channel strip are a linear phase EQ, so I can slap that on now. Whoops. Linear phase EQ, and then I'm going to close that because that's actually not what I'm going to do first, but I do need it in this order. Then I'm going to get the limiter 6 that I talked about in a previous video, how you'll need this for the project if you want to open it. So this is the default settings here. I am actually going to switch to a preset and then tweak some stuff. But if you actually listen right now, let me turn this off. This is how loud it is. So you notice it's really underneath my voice, and you could actually hear me talk really well. Now I'm going to turn this on and go to my favorite thing to start from, which would be Master 1. And there's no particular reason why it's my favorite. I just like to start from this one because it does pull up the gain quite a bit, +9, so you do want to make sure you have a lot of room there, which is why I said I have this gain on. It's +12 normally, so this gives it a boost more than this one usually does. And so it won't actually sound distorted when I start doing stuff here. So actually, let me turn off the gain. Actually, just turn it off for now. So now you could tell it's kind of like fighting with my voice. You could tell that it's a lot louder, and you could also tell the level is a lot higher. So that's a big boost there. But basically all we're doing is boosting. We're not actually doing any compression yet. You could tell because these little meters are hardly moving. High frequency limiter is actually going to move, and it's up to you whether you want to keep this on or turn it off. Sometimes I have it off, sometimes I have it on. But this actually adjusts the only the high end. It's like a compression only for the high end, because that can behave differently from the rest of your track when you start to boost stuff. So you might need to limit it. You might need to just let it be. It depends. Okay. So anyway, on to mastering. Now, we're going to actually use a reference here. Give me a second, and I'll pull up a track here. I think I have one open up in Finder. And we're going to actually use this as a reference for how loud we kind of want to shoot for. And I'm going to pull this up and kind of like let you listen to a clip of it. I don't need to worry about the copyright stuff just because this entire series has copyrighted vocals in here. So I can't actually, I can't license any of this and get paid for it like I would my other videos. But anyway, so that's the reason I try to keep copyrighted stuff out. But since this already has something copyrighted in it, I don't need to worry about that. So this is the volume level we're shooting for. I kind of wanted to choose a track that would be similar in mixing style to this one. So that's why I have that. And so now I'm going to play this back and you're kind of going to hear what the difference is. I wasn't sure of destiny. So you can hear mine's a lot quieter. It's nowhere near as harsh. And mine actually sounds smoother. Is that good? Not necessarily. We're actually going to get rid of that with a linear phase EQ later. And the reason you'll find for the difference in sound, how mine sounds smoother and the other one sounds kind of like, it sounds a lot more punchier and bright. Has to do a lot with the mastering process because I'll talk about loudness more in a second here because I know some people want to hear about that. But essentially, when you pull things up and you start EQing things, you get it to a certain volume level, and you could do EQ tricks to make it sound louder than it actually is. So, mastering war. A lot of people talk about this thing called loudness versus dynamics. And what you can do with mastering is you really start smashing things. You get a really loud track, but then it'll kind of kill the dynamics in the track. So it's this balance that you need to work with. I tend to go for as loud as I can without any distortion at all, and then try to just get more dynamics with my mastering. So that's the style I tend to go for. Some people like to do very, very, very minimal mastering, but then what happens for some styles is that your track is quieter than other tracks. And the problem with that is if a DJ goes in to mix your track, he's kind of expecting them to be the same loudness, but your track ends up a lot quieter, so he has to do what's called gain compensation, which is not as fun to do on the fly than if you could just, slap two tracks in and they happen to be at the same volume level. So what we're doing here is we're going to pull up the volume level to make it as loud as possible so it can kind of match other tracks and you don't hear like a discontinuity when you're playing your music and suddenly like the next track is really quiet. So that's why we're doing the whole mastering thing. Also, it'll tend to make it sound a little bit better because louder tends to be better. And when you smash things together, it can actually sound a little bit better too. Mostly, it does depend on your style. But it's like if you're doing deep house, you'll want to do a little bit less mastering than if you're doing something like electro house or dubstep. You want those to be a lot more thicker, tighter, punchier, and louder than if you do something like tropical house where you kind of want to just let it flow and you want to let those original dynamics really shine through. So, how do we start mastering? Okay, so you see this plugin, it's got a lot of stuff on here. I'll kind of go through what it is. We have a compressor. This compressor is not like other compressors in a few respects, and it's actually very similar to others in most of its respects. Then we have a peak limiter, which is just basically like a limiter. Then we have a high frequency limiter, which is a limiter for the high end. We have a clipper, which is a distortion unit, which actually we will use despite the fact that I said no distortion. We are actually going to use this because this allows us to get loudness without actually increasing volume level. And if you use it right, you cannot hear distortion, but you're actually getting distortion in the background. Then we have protection, which is kind of like a final brick wall limiter that you could just slam everything up against and it'll start to distort things, but at the same time, it'll bring the loudness up. So how do we approach this? So you kind of heard with playing back, we were still not actually hitting 0 decibels per octave, or not per octave. Why did I say per octave? That's type of cut. We're not hitting 0 decibels, so we can actually start pulling up the gain on this one, and then we're going to do some compression here. Just to kind of see how it sounds. Now, this is very trial and error, partially because I am not a mastering engineer. I tend to be better at mixing than I'm at mastering, so it is going to be some trial and error for me, but I'll show you my process in how I could get some of my latest tracks, how they're mostly, they're rather loud and almost up to par with other tracks out there, and yet there's not much distortion in them at all. So the way I do this is I actually just go through, I start with the compressor and I pull up the gain till it gets to where I need it to be. But first, I actually can't do it in this section. The reason for that being, if you listen to that there, it was a lot more drifty than here. Because we have that kick. And then also later on, when we get into the drop, there's some stuff. It's actually peaking at -3, which is what this is actually set at for this particular preset. So that means it is actually maxing out over here. So we should probably start over here when we're actually doing our mastering, try to pull stuff up as far as we can. Then we'll listen through the different sections and kind of see how it plays out. So I'm going to cycle this here, see if I could zoom in so I could actually get the cycle so it starts at the right spot. And then we're just going to get this general area here. And we're going to kind of let it run. And at this point, you're not going to be able to hear me much just because we're pulling this up louder than my voice will be because I have no compression on my voice or anything. It's just a straight raw microphone. So so essentially, this is going to drown out my voice. So it's going to be doing a lot of stopping and going. And additionally, I cannot actually run this through my speakers and master through my speakers. So unfortunately, it's not going to be the best mix and the best master ever because I cannot run this through my monitors. I have to run this through my headphones because otherwise my microphone picks up all the feedback in the world and we get real issues with that. So I'm going to be just kind of switching back and forth. First thing I'm actually going to do is because my computer can handle it, I am going to stick this onto 4 times sampling. If your computer can do this, you should do it. Although it might cause your computer to start running out of resources and the CPU usage will just go all the way up and you'll hardly be able to play back the track if you have a low-end computer. But hopefully you shouldn't run into that and you should just be able to run that in 4 times. Otherwise, just keep it on 1 times and when you go to bounce it, switch it to 4 times and then click bounce and then save your project. So here we go. We'll just listen to this, and then I'm going to start pulling up the gain until I start hearing distortion. Then I'm going to kind of go through some things, how we can manage that and reduce the distortion and keep things all hunky-dory and still loud. So here we go. This one I'm actually lucky, and it's actually going through the mastering pretty well. It's not quite as loud as that other track we're listening to. So it's not quite as loud, you can kind of tell that, but at the same time we're kind of doing okay right now, so I'm just gonna kind of keep going. Now essentially you probably started to hear that in this one the bass is really tight and you could actually feel it and it's really solid, and in mine you cannot feel it at all. So solid bass. The bass kind of just sounds smooth. It doesn't sound very heavy. So this is where the linear phase EQ we dropped in comes in handy. We're going to actually start doing stuff with that in a second, but I want to try to see if I could tweak some stuff around. I'm going to kind of see if there's any difference right now with the high frequency limiter on or off, and then I'll kind of decide whether I want to keep it on or off. So we'll see here. So if you turn it on, it almost sounds like there's downsampling on it. So I'm going to actually keep this off for now. Or we're probably just going to distort the snot out of it because the high end, when you distort it, it can actually sound okay as long as you're not distorting it too much. So I think what I could actually start doing, because the way this is sounding, I might actually be able to use the clipper a bit here. I'm probably going to set it to multi-band clipping. There's a whole bunch of settings here that are I could go through and explain every single one. But I think I'm just going to kind of go over the unique ones. You know, gain, ratio, attack, and release, that's all compressor stuff normally. You run into that a lot, so that's not worth like re-going over. I'm going to adjust the attack later on because I want to make sure that there's enough punch in it. And then, so essentially this is the on-off switch for the compressor. You could have it an off, multi-sampling, or normal. I'm probably going to set it to I think this is multi-sampling. I don't think it's multi-band. But essentially you get multiple little. So you actually have multiple little things here, or meters that you could follow. And so I'm just going to leave it at that for now. I might switch between it later just to see which one I like better. Mode linked and unlinked, I honestly can't tell you what the difference is because I have no idea. I think linked. Actually, let's see if I can figure this out. Unlinked, linked. Nope. I think linked has something to do with keeping the compression across the spectrum to some degree, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just going to leave that as is. Speed, I am also going to leave as is, but this is basically like the limiter. How tight do you want it? Do you want it normal speed? Do you want it half the speed? Do you want it 1/3 the speed? So just kind of mess around with that. See how you like it. I might actually bring up the speed a little bit on the limiter because I can. That'll help bring a little bit of loudness. But for this track, I actually can leave it at normal speed probably because it's not as fast of a track, so I don't have to worry about having a fast limiter as much. So we'll see. We'll tweak around with that. The type is obviously the limiter type, and you could just kind of adjust it to your liking. Now, the mode here is very subjective and what it does. So we have brick wall limiting, which is causes a lot more distortion. I don't know if you'll hear it here, but so you can kind of hear as I switch through this one. I believe this is multi-sampling, I think, like I said before. But this one actually, you could hear the bass is slightly different from the other ones. So multi-band has the smoothest bass by far, so I'm probably just gonna leave it on multi-band. I could put it on soft. I kind of like the way soft is sounding too. But it's up to you, and it's very subtle things at this point, of which I could hear better when I'm using my speakers. But like I said, I can't run those while I'm recording unless I just don't have any voice and I just narrate with on-screen stuff. But that's really painful for me. So I'm just gonna actually talk through this and we're gonna deal with it. So now this one is actually the final limiter, is what you want to pull up after you pull up the compressor and the peak limiter a little bit, and you're not hearing any distortion. Then you could actually start pulling this one up just a little bit. I'm gonna make the this so it's at 0.1 decibels should be the peak, just because it doesn't matter, because at this point we're just limiting it. If you do the samples here, actually, so here we go. This is worth talking about. I didn't go over the clipper because the clipper is basically kind of like a distortion unit that acts as a compressor almost. So interesting thing there. But anyway, so we're going to talk about the protection here. We have digital clip, ISP fast, and ISP precise. Now, I prefer digital clip. That's my style of music. It's what happens is it makes it sound a lot brighter. These ones will kind of smooth it out. If you do something like, if you do other styles of music like rock or ambient, then you might want to actually switch to one of these ISP modes. But for the most part, digital clipping makes it sound brighter and crisper. Where these other ones tend to smooth it out, which is more suited to more chill styles of music. And specifically, if you do an acoustic guitar track, then you're definitely going to want to use those because it makes it sound so much nicer. But in my case, digital clip is best. I'll kind of just show you here. I'm not sure how much of a difference it's going to make just because I haven't pulled it up that much yet, but we'll see. So here we go. Once again, very subtle differences, but like I said, I prefer digital clip. It'll become more apparent when I start to pull this up. So you can tell I'm actually starting to get distortion there, so I need to pull it back down. I think there's going to be the point where I start to, I think I might do a little bit with a clipper and make sure this is on multi-band later, but when I get to that, so. Okay, I'm gonna tweak this a little bit up just to get, just kind of show you what I'm gonna do with this, and then I'm gonna actually talk about why we have all these different things and what the purpose really is. So, but first I want to tweak this up just to see if I can get a little bit more loudness out of it. Then we're gonna start EQing and tweaking the mix down, probably the kick, because I want to try to make the kick tighter, and then we'll probably tweak the bass line too, so it's a bit heavier. And then, but anyway, so let me go on to this one, and then we'll talk about why we have all these various things in a second. Okay, so you could probably hear there when I switched it to normal, you actually could hear distortion, but when I switched it to multiband, we left it was fine. So that's why we have that there. I'm not going to play with the knee, and I'm not going to play with the upsampling, but I'll just, okay, so the clipper on and off basically just kind of makes it brighter and louder, but if you notice, we're still not on par with this. We're pretty darn close, but you notice there's something about the signature of the sound that's different, and that's where the EQ comes in. So now this is where things start to get interesting, and you actually start to have fun mastering, and things become a lot more difficult. If you just slap this on and you just kind of bring it up as much as you can, whoop-de-doo, you're good. You could kind of finish it there and nothing too amazing. Oh, that's right. I forgot. I wanted to talk about why we have all these different things. We have a compressor, a peak limiter, high frequency limiter, a clipper, and a protection. It's like 4 different types of compression, basically. And so why do we have all those? And the reason is because we actually have, each one has its own characteristics that are different. And I just remembered that I need to pull up the attack here. I'll adjust that later, but each one of these has their own characteristics on how it deals with the audio. So when you layer these on top of each other, you essentially are able to pull up the sound because each one is kind of adding harmonics and adjusting the shape of the dynamics in its own different way. If you're doing the same compressor layered on top of each other, then you wouldn't be able to get as much loudness before things started to sound nasty. So we have all these different types of tools to get different sounds. So that's the reason why we have so many different tools in one tool. Basically it allows us to pull things up more. So you can kind of tell when I was pulling things up with the compressor, it started to get to a point where it's distorting. I turn it down, and then I could actually go to a different tool here and I could start to turn it up, and then it'd start distorting. I could turn it just down a little bit, and essentially each tool kind of brings a little bit of loudness to it. And you did probably notice that there came a point where I could only boost things just a tiny bit. And that's just because the way things work. Once you start to boost stuff, it gets to a point where no matter how much you boost it, you're just going to kind of get distortion. So that's basically my spiel on why there's so many tools. But now let's go into EQing. So the first thing you want to do is cut all the crap out of the bottom. And that's because you can't really hear this stuff, and it just becomes rumbly and nasty, and it doesn't, when you're playing through a big speaker system, it just kind of sounds muddy. So there's no point in having that. Yes, it is deep bass. Everybody likes deep bass, but at the same time, like I said, the only time you could really hear it is when it's playing on a massive speaker system, and the only time it really, makes a difference is when it's kind of messy. So there's no point in really keeping that. Some people think, the lower it goes, the better. When you're looking at headphone specs, the lower it goes, the better. That is true, but at the same time, when you're making a track, you don't want all this stuff to hang out because it just kind of builds up and sounds terrible. So now listening to my track, I need to listen really quick to it so I can kind of get an idea of what I'm going to be EQing here, and then I'll go through the EQing process. So I don't know if you did hear, but actually when I played it back, you kind of hear the saw there had some distortion. That's okay distortion. I think I'm probably going to leave it just because it's not to the point where it sounds nasty. It actually just kind of sounds like it's part of the synthesizer to begin with. But everything else sounds pretty good, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Okay, so listening to this, I do need a bit more here, and I'm going to need a bit more here. I'm just going to put in these as placeholders, and then I'm going to probably put something here. So now I'm going to go through, and I'm actually going to bring these down considerably, and then actually go through and start EQing this to kind of see if I can get the right sound. So now you could really tell that the amount of compression I have is really actually starting to distort here. So I can turn some stuff down here. I think I'll probably turn down the, which one's doing the most work? Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to go in, I told you one of the first things I'm going to tweak is the kick. Now it's distorting quite a bit, which actually I believe that's actually distortion, not distortion I put on there intentionally. No, that's actually the distortion on it. Okay, so now what I want to go through is I want to figure out what I need to tweak here. Now the kick low. Yeah, I did distort that. So I'm going to actually EQ this here. See if I can figure out the right spot. And you'll notice that I didn't actually put any compression on this. So this is the point where I put compression on it. Compressor, I might readjust this. Let me just put that there so I remember. I might switch the compressor to before the EQ there. We'll see. So what I want to do is I want to make this fully output, which is what it was already on. But I just kind of want to mention that because I'm actually going to use the mix feature here because I usually do this on my kick subs. So then I'm going to bring the threshold down really low, ratio up really high, really obvious stuff there. That's just going to just do tons of compression. And then I'm going to turn off auto release. That is very key. On the sub, you want to turn off auto release. That can kill your sub. And then you'll want to pull up the attack so it's really, really long. So here we go. So the problem is I don't have my speakers running like I said, so I can't actually tell. Actually, I'm going to want to put this right here. So that's where I want it after all. I don't have my speakers running, so I can't actually feel if there's like a double hit with the bass, because sometimes what'll happen is you'll kind of get this initial impact, and basically what'll happen is it'll look like it's going up, and then it'll go down and then back up, which is, you know, if you could feel it or you could hear it, that's a bad thing. You want to try to get rid of it. Release does a really good job at adjusting that, which is why you want to turn off auto, because auto will do things. It'll like basically change the release time while it's compressing, and that just makes a nasty mess. So I don't know, maybe I could show you it. There we go, that's it. Kind of sounds like it's going diddle, 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 almost. You could almost hear that. So that's what you want to really not have. So turning off auto, it gets rid of that like immediately. So that's why you want to have auto off, and then you can kind of, you know, adjust it to your taste. So let's see, what do I want here? Okay, so I'm just using this really high compression amount to kind of decide how much punch I want in the sub. And then I'm going to kind of adjust the release here, just to see if I can get it just right. Okay, and then turn up the threshold so we're no longer doing loads of compression. Actually, I might just do it there. Now, the question is it worth having a knee? No, because that smooths it out all the way. Okay, so now what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually see if I can turn down the ratio. Maybe just adjust this around a little. Now, if we go back to the input, we hear there's a lot of sub there. So this is where we want to mix. We mix the sub with the punch. Actually, we could probably turn up the makeup gain. See how this sounds. So basically all I'm trying to do here is adjust the kick so that it fits. Now, I think part of the problem with Camel Crusher here is it might have like removed some of the sub. So let's see here. So it kind of got rid of the real sub and made up for it with like distorted sub. So I might, we'll listen to it with and without. Yep, I kind of like it without Camel Crusher now. I'm just gonna leave that in the stack anyway. But so essentially what this does is it does distort it, so we get rid of the actual low, and we kind of it comes in with some false low end. So it's better for those. That's better for playback on like small speakers. But when you want that real heavy bass for like a big system, you really want to have that low end, and I mean like generally this area of low end that's like kind of clean and it doesn't sound like it's been shortened. So this is we need to turn this off because the distortion is kind of getting rid of some of that. So now kick main. This is actually where the punch comes from. That was mostly the sub that we were adjusting. This is where the punch will come from. You could really hear it. So I think I actually have this one pretty much already compressed really well. Actually, I might just leave it like this. Makes it really punchy. Let's see. There we go. So now I'm actually hearing enough punch to where it's being an issue, and that means we could actually start fixing some of this. So I might take, so I don't know if I'm going to cut it from the low end or if I'm going to cut it from the main one. We'll see here which one we want to do. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll find where's the punchy part here on this one. Actually, let me just solo this one. Solo that, and then I'll grab a free. Do I have a free EQ here? Nope. So I'm just gonna grab another EQ, and I'm just gonna do a sweep to find that sweet spot. It's like almost right around there. So that's where we need to cut from our sub, and I think I actually boosted that on our sub because we didn't have enough. But now that I've got it back in with the main kick, I could probably pull that out. Yeah, I was thinking about boosting it. Okay. So make this just a really smooth sub. There you go, nice and smooth. There we go. We'll combine them now and kind of hear what it sounds like. Okay, and I might just get this one and balance it a little bit. And then we're going to need to pull this down in the mix so that it's not, you know, causing all that distortion. part here I'm not quite liking. There it is. It's not doing that much, but yeah, I'll see how that sounds. So this is a little bit of the boring part because I'm just going through it and I'm really concentrating on the mix. That's why I haven't been talking that much, but we kind of need to deal with it because this is the part that really makes the track shine. Just having like a really tight kick and a nice heavy bass line. So, and this one is part of the. This is where some of the ringing has come from. So I need to go through and find the part that's ringing. I actually just pull it down like that. Smooth it out. Now the question is, now let's just look back to this other track for reference, kind of how it sounds. How does our kick sound? Okay, so I think that's pretty much good for the kick. You kind of hearing it wasn't sounding like quite as clean as the kick in the Pro track, but we're gonna have to deal with that because I'm not like really that professional. So and then I'm gonna go through here with the bass line, and we're gonna make the bass line really shine here. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on with the bass line. And I think these are stereo panned, and that's why. Okay, so what do we have here? I forgot. There's that part. There's that part. Okay, so this is where our sub for the bass is kind of coming from. And I have a lot of EQ on that one. So I'm actually just going to leave that there because that one's mostly the character of it. And then I'm going to do the mix one. I think I'm going to switch this to linear phase here. Now you hear a little bit of distortion, but that's okay because what'll happen is right now this is just pulling it up, and we're not hearing it correctly because all the compression here. Once we get it into the mix, it probably won't be distorting because other things will be pushing it down. Sorry about that. I don't know what that is. I think that's automation spazzing out on me. So deal with it. Actually, I can move to a different section probably. But anyway, so we've got this, and I think I might go in and tweak this little part up here. This one. Get it? Because there's a really nice part here. I haven't EQ'd this at all. There's a really nice part here that I like. See if I can find it. If I get that, and then I get this, There we go. Let's see how that sounds. I don't want to do too much over here just because this is where my kick is. So I want to be boosting mostly around here because this is where the only the punch of my kick drum is, and then where the bass should basically be. So let's see here. How did that sound?
All I need.
And then because I boosted the low end of this, I'm going to make it sound nice and hi-fi by doing this. And if I recall correctly, this one was a high end, right? There we go. So we need to pull this one up a bit. Actually, let's pull up the gain here. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that, I don't know. What is that? What's doing this? This? I have no idea what that even is. Oh, that's right. That's the automation for the what do you call it? There's that one synth that fades in. Okay, so now where are we at? Basically, I've focused on the loudest part of my track, and I've kind of mastered it reasonably well. I know this video's taken forever, but okay, so there are some parts in here that you can kind of tell that there's some distortion, but the question is someone gonna hear it when they listen to it? We'll listen to the rest of the track for now, just to kind of hear how it fares with the mastering we've got going on. But when we get to the drop here, if we actually start to feel like we can hear the distortion, then it's actually worth dealing with and trying to fix. Otherwise, it's actually not that big of a deal. So I'm gonna play this back here, mute myself, and we kind of hear what the mastering has done. I might A/B it. Yeah, I'll just leave it as is for now. We'll just kind of listen to it, and then I'll A/B some sections of it so you can kind of hear before and after what the mastering did. So here we go. Okay, let me see if that's actually a problem I need to fix or if it's just a glitch that ran into one time. Okay, looks like it was just a one-time glitch, so we'll go back here and listen to it.
Static electricity, your touch moving to the sound. Your lips are all I need when the music comes around. You bring up the energy and never bring it down. I wasn't sure of destiny until you came around. Hold me sweetly, hold me tight. This could be our last night. Kiss me with passion before you say goodbye.
If I do say to myself, that is actually pretty darn tight. I was not thinking I was actually going to get it that tight. But so when you got into the drops, you couldn't really hear any distortion. It wasn't that much of an issue with it. I'll be honest, I think I could vaguely hear some sort of like the fact where it's actually pushing the dynamics and killing some of it, but it's actually not that bad. And I think we're at the loudest that we wanted at. We could kind of compare to the other track we were looking at here.
Never bring it down.
If I didn't close it, there we go. Now the bass in that one is a lot more solid. I could go through and actually like boost a part that I don't want to boost. So if I go through this one, nope. Which one is it? Okay, actually, part of the reason that the bass is different is because I'm using a very smooth sub bass here. They're using one that's more similar to like this style, where it's kind of like the low end would be rougher. So I could actually go through here and really boost there, like a lot. But I don't want to do that because this one's kind of, it's not as suited for that. I kind of want it to be smoother. Actually, I think I'll leave it at that because if I just boost it a little bit, it kind of gives it a little, it makes it sound a little bit better.
Static electricity.
Okay, and I didn't hear any issues when it was actually playing back. Actually, I really like how this part turned out right here.
You bring up the energy and never bring it down. I wasn't sure.
I really like how tight the kick is on that. I actually just realized that we didn't bother checking the mix for this sub that we've put in here. Ooh, this one is actually going to sound nice. So if we go through here and notice we just did kind of like this one big cut here, but that's just kind of for character more than anything. So if I can figure out which one it is. Actually, we could probably put that back. Get this one. Put it probably right about here. Is where it'll sound nice. There we go.
I wasn't sure of destiny until you came around. Hold me sweetly, hold me tight. This could be our last night. Kiss me with passion before you say goodbye. 'Cause we're running out of time. Bring up the energy.
So that's just the high end.
I wasn't sure of destiny until you.
So you kind of get this one, and if we go to this part right here, kind of make it stand out a bit more.
Till you came around. Bring up the energy and never bring it down. I wasn't sure of.
But that kick is so tight. It's nice. I like that. Other than that, I think with this is going to be like pretty much this track's done. I'm not going to post this on my SoundCloud because like I said, it's not my style. It's not really it's not really something that I'm too proud of by way of like structure and the music behind it. But in the end, the mix turned out pretty tight, from what I could tell through my headphones. I'd have to listen through my speakers to be sure, but that's pretty much it. I imagine this episode's gone way longer than my other ones, but I wanted to have all the mastering, like the final mix down in one video, so you kind of see everything I'm going. I don't think I explained everything here. I'm actually going to talk about, in terms of mix, the EQ and everything that's going on here. So Like I said, I did talk about you want to cut this. This is kind of like your brightness. So like if you want the kick drum when it kicks and it has like that nice click at the beginning. If you want that to really like stand out and really like and be really bright and punchy and snappy. That's the word I was looking for. This is the area that you would generally boost. This also gives you a lot of the crispiness in vocals. Right around here, which is what I was trying to boost earlier. You kind of saw me doing that. That gives a lot of the clarity in being able to hear the vocals. This gives overall to the track. This is what gives it. It gives it loudness without muddiness. If you just pull up this one area, your track will sound louder and it'll sound clear and kind of bright, but it won't ever get muddy. Here, you could kind of get some more clarity, but you got to be really careful around this area. Obviously, this part is where you start getting into bass and everything's just pretty much broken down into sine waves, and you don't have to worry too much about like what it generally is. But it's mostly this is just the heaviness, and this is kind of like the sub area. So what I mean by heaviness is like that this is the bass that everybody's usually like looking for when they hear bass. When they listen to Beats headphones and they kind of they really like that. That's basically this area. And no, I'm not endorsing Beats in any way, shape, or form. Do not buy their products. They're, I'll be honest, they're not very good. So that's basically if you break down the EQ, that's what you get. And you'll notice that despite the fact that I boosted stuff up like that, I could actually pull it down to where it was before. And that's not what I want to do. And I could pull it down like that much. And in the end, you see I'm only doing very, very subtle boosts and cuts if I balance out the EQ. So I could actually get this part here and even that out. So it'll give us a little bit more bass. I could listen to that really quick, see how that sounds. Actually, it might be worth doing. Just listen to this. Yeah, just leave a little bit there. I don't like it all the way up to kind of level it out. That doesn't end up sounding too great. Okay, and the one thing to note is you may be tempted to use this and boost like that. If you're gonna boost like that, I'm gonna tell you one thing right now. Cut like that. The reason is when you actually get to this region right here, you might enjoy boosting it. And it might sound nice if you boost it, but you have to be very careful because when you upload it to SoundCloud, anything in this area, if you have a lot of it, it'll start to sound like instead of so you kind of get like this, it's basically dithering it and it's cutting down the quality of it when it uploads to SoundCloud. And this part right here is majorly affected to the point where if you have white noise oops, that's not what I wanted to do. If you have white noise in this region, you'll actually really regret boosting it because it'll sound terrible, it'll sound garbly. It'll almost sound like you threw a chorus on top of it. Like, actually, the exact sound that you get is if you get white noise, you add a chorus and you add a distortion unit on top of it. Then it kind of sounds like that, and it does not sound nice, trust me. So you want to be very careful if you're boosting on this area. You can boost it a little bit to get some crispiness, but if you are going to boost it, always do a cut, like just set it to 48 and then pull it up to like right around there. So you can actually work with it. Actually, just having a cut like this on your track kind of helps. You'll see that it barely affects it at all. Sorry, I moved that one. I wanted to make sure it was in the right spot. Okay, so then I could go here and just kind of show you what you'd be tempted to do. You actually might hear the downsampling when I upload this to YouTube. So if then it'll be a great example. Otherwise, if you can't hear it, then you'll just kind of hear why you'll be tempted to want to do this because it actually does make it sound nice. But like I said, when you upload it to anywhere or you sell it as a track, typically it'll get downsampled unless you run really high quality tracks, like you're buying it from Beatport or something. So just be careful. I'm going to pull this up, show you why you'd want to do it, and why you wouldn't want to do it. So you notice the white noise kind of becomes more open, and the kick just sounds like it has a little bit more air to it. But this is like the crispiness of the kick, just so you know. This is kind of like the air. I can boost this up really high, really quick, just to kind of show you, what the character of the sound is. So it does sound nice, but like I said, at the same time, you get quality issues, and also a lot of people like to boost that on their speaker systems. So when you have it, so your track is already balanced out well, and then they could actually boost that area, and they don't have to worry about it getting like piercingly sharp and not sounding open. But you can do a light boost to that area. But like I said, if you're gonna boost like that, just get that much, then you want to cut right here. So you get some of this, but you don't get this, because this part you can barely hear. Human hearing only goes up to about 18,000 hertz. If you're one of the special people, or your hearing hasn't been damaged, then it'll go up to 20 kilohertz instead of 18 kilohertz. But so for the most part, you can't hear this anyway. This really small part up here, and then the presence of this being here causes SoundCloud to create stuff over here, like in this entire area. That sounds nasty. So you want to try to cut that out if it's not making that much of a difference anyway. So I don't know. I might just boost that a tiny bit there. Just kind of let it go out a little bit more. We'll kind of A/B it, see if it makes a difference. Yeah, I'll just do that much. So it's a very subtle difference there by way of how much I'm EQing. So I'm just gonna leave that in there. So it's just a slight amount. And what I could spare to do in this track is it might be worth adding a boost around here, but at this point I don't want to do that, because I actually could get this one and just move it to the middle here and widen it. Actually, might just do that. We'll see how that sounds. Okay, you know what? I think I'm just gonna leave it right around there. That should be good. Okay, so I spent a lot of time with the EQs on this one, just kind of getting them in the right spot, and that's because this is the final mixdown, final master, so you want everything to be dead on perfect. Now, the question is, do really slight twitches to the EQ make a difference? Yes and no. No, if you do it for only one track. It will not make that much of a difference if you do it for only one track. However, if you go through all 64 of these tracks, nice. And you go through and you EQ, do very, very, very precise EQs on every single one, so you know exactly what you're doing and exactly how it's placed, it makes a huge difference. Like if you were to if you were able to like undo all of the EQs and then redo all the EQs, actually you could do that, just bounce a track before and then do very, very slight, precise changes and then bounce the final track again, and you will find a big difference. So for one track, no, doesn't make that much of a difference. For individual tracks, if you do all of them, yes, it makes a massive difference. For the master chain, does it make a difference if you do very slight EQs like this? Yes, because you are layering it on top of everything, so everything is slightly affected. Actually gonna boost this up just a teeny bit there. Okay. And so everything is affected, and but not as much as if you individually make sure you do everything. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you realize that the small changes do make a big difference in your project overall. And also, just because the track sounds like fine when you are doing it, playing it back normally, when you go into the mastering stage, it might not stand in the right place. So like for example, the kick sounded fine when we were playing it back, but when we were listening to this other track and comparing it, this is what I meant by, listen to other tracks, really listen to how they did the things. And then, so when you go in and you actually, listen to your kick and you compare it to another pro kick, you really have to decide, is this up to par? And mine was definitely not. I mean, I could go in, I think I might be able to go in with the actual kick here and kind of A-B it, because I think I have before it was basically neither of these, I think. Now there is some compression on it, but But yeah, so basically, I think this is the last video in the series here. I don't think I can find anything else I could do with it. I mean, other than just major changes. But like I said, I don't want to do major changes to this because it's not my favorite project. The mix is actually pretty nice here from what I can hear through my headphones. But the arrangement could be better. I can't really completely fix the arrangement just because the weird way the vocals are lined up. But anyway. Thank you guys so much for watching the series. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm probably going to take a small break before I do more episodes on this one, on this particular type of series. I haven't found another track that I'm going to do the use vocals for to do a remix for. That's typically the way I remix, by the way. I just grab the vocals from the track and then I remix using only the vocals. I don't typically grab any other things. So that's the way I remix. But like I said, I am very interested in doing another one for this series. But at the same time, I don't want to do a obscure style again. I kind of wanted to do a unique style, something that I wasn't used to kind of show you guys, you know, when I experiment, this is what I end up with. And we kind of did end up with that. When I experiment, you guys, this is what I end up with. So you kind of hear some things are great, some things not so great. Like the first break is really nice.
Electricity, your touch moving to the sound. Your lips are all I need.
The break is really good. The drop is okay. I mean, like, the uniqueness of the drop comes from the alternating fills that I ended up adding to it. But otherwise, the drop itself is kind of like meh. So the build was pretty good. Nothing too amazing about the build. The build's just supposed to be a build. And then, you know, the rest of that half here is just kind of like repetition, because that's the way the song structure typically goes. I wasn't paying too close attention to song structure in this one just because, like I said, I was kind of limited by the vocals and how weird they were. So, you know, if you want to see more what I usually do, that's what's going to be the next series, I guess, season of this series here. When I do another track, I'm probably going to do trance or electro house. I'm not sure which, just because, like I said, I haven't found which track I'm going to be doing. But when I do, it'll be more towards the tracks I typically post on SoundCloud, and you'll kind of hear what goes on behind those ones. So, remixing from scratch, start to finish, nothing cut out. I actually did cut out a few things, but that was just blank space in the videos when someone interrupted me or I accidentally knocked over something. But otherwise, I did everything. If you go back to the first video, you can kind of see starting from just nothing. This is what we end up with at the end. And I am going to upload this project for you guys to download so that you could have this. Like I said, you do need limiter number 6. I do not remember who that's by. I could just look here. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I'm sorry, guys. But limiter number 6 is what it's called. That's what I use for all my mastering on all my tracks. And then I actually, in a couple instances here, I think I use Camel Crusher in here. Here we go. I think I saw it. Camel Crusher. That one is actually disabled, so I don't need to worry too much about it. I do have Camel Crusher in some of these other ones though. So you are going to need Camel Crusher if you want to be able to load up all the effects and everything. Now, please tell me in the comments if the snare build doesn't work. I think I actually have it saved here. I could check through the project files just to double check. I'll do that afterwards. And if I run into it, where is it? Where's my snare build? Come on. Here we go. This snare build is an EXS. It's a custom EXS, and I don't know if this saves in my project by default. So I'm going to check through once I finish recording here to make sure that it saves in correctly. But other than that, this pretty much, I think that's all I have to talk about here. You guys are going to have this, and assuming this saves correctly, I'm not used to saving EXSs inside the project, but if it saves correctly, you should have everything. Otherwise, you could just resort to this old snare build that it doesn't have the pitch rise, but I kind of go through the process, everything I did, and I think I actually have the EQ is identical. No, because I added an extra EQ on top of this. This was a combination of these ones with an extra EQ on top. So, anyway, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I got to wrap up this video now. I imagine this one's actually like an hour long. This is just a guess, shot in the dark there. I didn't actually start my timer just to see how long it is, but I wanted this all to be in one shot so you guys can have everything when it comes to you know, all the final mixing, final mastering in one video, see everything I did, and hopefully I talked about why I did all the things I did. Sometimes I missed it because I was tweaking it while it was playing back. But otherwise, yeah, like I said, I hope you enjoy, and I'm actually going to show you briefly here what did the mastering really do to our track. And I'll show you this. I'm going to turn this off, turn on the gain. So this was our track before.
Your lips are all I need. When the music comes around, you bring up the energy and never bring it down. I wasn't sure of destiny until you came around. Hold me sweetly, hold me tight. This could be our last night. Kiss me with passion before you say goodbye. 'Cause we're running out of time. All I need.
So that's kind of what the mastering ended up doing in the end. And then there was some other mixing things, like you could probably tell from previous videos that now my kick is so much more punchy, especially right here.
Bring up the energy and
That's just a beautiful kick. I love that kick. So anyway, saving the project, and I'm done here. I'm going to end this video now, and then I'm going to check to see if EXS properly saved. And if it did, I'm going to upload this and give it to you guys. Hopefully I don't have to split this video, depending on what YouTube says. I might actually have to split it into 2 videos because of the length. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next series or my later videos.